Booksmart. It came out in 2019, it was directed by Olivia Wilde, and it's another one of those coming-of-age high school comedies, but with a unique twist that's established pretty early on in the film. So the story follows our two main characters, Molly and Amy, respectively played by Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever. They're both devoted straight-A students who are only focused on their high school career and getting into the best colleges possible. And it's one day that Molly overhears some of the other high school students making fun of her uptightness in the bathroom, and so she goes and brags to them how she's getting into a much better school than them, only for them to respond that they were actually getting into equally good colleges despite the fact that their whole lives aren't just their studies. This kind of blows Molly's mind, like she's missed out on her whole high school career for nothing, and realizes that she needs to balance her work life, with a little fun. So she coerces her best friend Amy that they're going to have this one great night of going out and partying on the night before the graduation and live their lives to the fullest before they're no longer high school students. And of course, this sort of sets up a sort of Harold and Kumar type adventure all in one night, with a lot less crass humor, but just as ridiculous comedy. We do get some crazy setups, like one of their classmates throwing a murder mystery dinner theater, a rich kid inviting them to a yacht with no one else showing up, and the principal giving them a Lyft drive. And of course, they take some drugs by accident, giving us this very strange, dull hallucination scene. And on top of that, the movie also explores a lot of their crushes, a lot of their relationships with their other classmates, and even the friendship between our two main characters. A lot of surprisingly happens in one night. Because I've said this in a previous review too, where, the cast of minor characters doesn't always necessarily play the biggest role towards the story. And here I think it's the total opposite. I think all the minor characters, as quirky and crazy as they are and played up for humor, all actually serve some kind of purpose to the main character's growth. There's another great character named Gigi, played by Billie Lourd of Star Wars, American Horror Story, and Scream Queens fame, who just sort of comedically shows up everywhere all the time where our main characters show up. Like, it's more so just hysterical than creepy, but it's a little of both too. Funny enough, the story delves into a lot of themes about relationships throughout high school and growing up. There's a character that's introduced named AAA, who got that name because of slut shaming through some kind of, AAA experience. But she has a chat with Molly towards the end of the movie about stereotyping amongst high school students and how dangerous and hurtful it can be, which is surprisingly deep for a movie like this. So overall, I thought there were some great takeaways from this movie, but I did have one major issue. The message the movie's trying to give off right in the beginning is actually a pretty good and rare message about trying to balance your work life with fun. But what's established pretty early on is that all these students come from semi-wealthy homes, like mini mansion types. The cruel reality is that if you're from a wealthier family, you do have a better chance of getting into a college because your parents can afford it. And we see towards the end of the movie that Molly lives in, a small house. So we have an example of haves and have-nots and someone like Molly who has to work harder to achieve the same thing. And I feel like there's sort of a classist issue here that kind of gets overlooked and sort of passed by. And part of me can't help but feel like there's something kind of warped about the message here. Now, on the flip side, another message could have been introduced here by saying, yeah, life is unfair. We're all dealt different hands. And sometimes you have to work a little bit harder, and that's okay. You can still have friends, you can still have fun, you can still make connections, and that could have been a really powerful message too. Unfortunately, the movie doesn't really go into that direction. So overall, the movie covers a lot. It's surprisingly hysterical. It covers a lot of dynamics of relationships, including cliques, stereotyping, disillusioned crushes, and challenging friendships. I still think there's two major messages that the movie's sort of in between and neither one quite stuck the landing, but it also wraps all that together with a positive message by the end of the movie. So this was a fantastic film and I highly recommend it. Booksmart gets my score of 3.5 stars. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Have you all seen Booksmart? And if not, what else have you been watching? Comment below, let me know, and of course, stay tuned right here if you want to see more.